breaking. A patrol erupts as Venezuelan jets confront a United States destroyer.
It is 3:40 a.m. The Caribbean Sea is calm, almost flat. A United States destroyer moves steadily forward at 18 knots, holding its patrol route in international waters. Inside the ship, the night watch is quiet. Then the radar picture changes. Two fast-moving contacts appear low on the screen, coming from the south. They are 35 miles out and closing fast. No radio calls, no identification signals, just speed and a direct line toward the ship. This is no accident. This is United States forces facing Venezuelan military aircraft. Instead of turning away, the jets angle straight toward the patrol route, maintaining course and altitude. They are not testing airspace, they are testing limits. Inside the combat center, warning tones sound. Operators lock tracks. Distance drops quickly. 30 miles. 25. The ship's crew understands what this means. At this range, a missile launch would leave very little time to react. This is not a navigation error. This is a message. A calculated move meant to show reach and pressure in open water. What the approaching pilots do not realize yet is simple. They believe they are forcing a reaction from an isolated ship. They have no idea they are provoking the wrong force. If you want to follow this confrontation as it unfolds, stay with us and subscribe, because the situation is about to escalate fast. To understand why this moment matters, you have to look beyond the radar screen. The Caribbean is not empty ocean. It is a narrow space where shipping lanes, military patrol routes, and coastal air bases overlap every single day. That is why a United States destroyer like USS Thomas Hudner cannot treat a close approach as routine. From a tactical view, this location favors fast escalation. Venezuelan aircraft can launch quickly and reach open water in minutes. The ship, however, cannot simply turn away. Its mission requires steady movement and predictable presence. That balance is exactly what makes this area a pressure point. Whoever pushes first is testing how far the other side is willing to go without firing. But this is not just strategy. For the crew on board, this moment is personal. These sailors are not watching events on a screen at home. They are standing watch in real time, knowing that one decision made hundreds of miles away by a pilot could force them into a life or death response. There is no pause button. There is no room for error. This is also why silence from the approaching jets matters so much. No radio call removes intent clarification. No identification signal removes trust. Every second without communication raises the stakes. What could have been a warning pass now looks like a deliberate challenge. At this point, the confrontation becomes more than a patrol. It becomes a question. Is this a bluff, or is it the first step towards something worse? And if you were watching this unfold, which side do you think pushed too far? Press 1 if you believe the jets crossed the line, or press 9 if you think the ship's presence forced the risk. Either way, stay subscribed, because the next moments will answer that question fast. The first response does not begin with weapons. It begins with confirmation. Inside the combat center of USS Thomas Hudner, an operator leans forward, eyes fixed on a single moving line. The contact is no longer drifting. It is locked in. Speed steady. Altitude low. Direction unchanged. That detail matters because aircraft that plan to pass by usually turn. These do not. A calm voice breaks the silence. Tracks are solid. Hostile profile. No one raises their voice. No one rushes. Every movement is practiced. The ship holds course. It does not zigzag or accelerate. Sudden moves could make things worse. Instead, sensors tighten their focus. Radar sweeps faster. Electronic receivers listen closely, not for voices, but for signals. The crew is not asking who these jets are anymore. They already know. The question now is what they are about to do. Range drops again. 28 miles. Then 25. At this distance, a missile launch would give the ship less than a minute to react. A technician's hand pauses over a console switch. It is a small moment, barely noticeable, but everyone in the room feels it. Pressing that switch does not fire a weapon. It tells the ship to prepare to confuse one. That choice could save the ship without starting a war. Another voice confirms what everyone fears. The aircraft are carrying anti-ship weapons. Real ones, not training loads. That changes the weight of the room. Simulations do not feel like this. Drills do not tighten your chest this way. Then the timeline accelerates. New symbols appear on the screen. Two objects separate from the aircraft tracks. They are moving faster than the jets themselves and dropping lower toward the sea. The call comes instantly, sharp and clear. Missile launch detected. This is the moment where theory ends. The crew does not debate intent anymore. They act. Defensive systems come alive. Antennas rotate, launchers unlock, every layer of protection moves into place, one after another, exactly as trained. The first real test has begun, and the ship now has seconds to prove it can survive it. The room stays quiet as the countdown continues. Every second feels heavier than the last. No one looks away from the screen. Whatever happens next will happen fast, and everyone aboard knows this is only the beginning of a much larger confrontation. The first wave comes in low and fast. Two anti-ship missiles skim just above the water, moving at more than 3 times the speed of sound. From the deck of USS Thomas Hudner, they are invisible. Inside the ship, they are impossible to ignore. Electronic warning indicators light up across multiple screens. This is the danger zone. At this speed and altitude, every second matters. Even a slight delay can mean the difference between survival and impact. The ship responds without firing. Electronic warfare systems activate, sending controlled signals into the air. Chaff bursts open above the water, spreading clouds of metallic strips that look like massive targets to a missile seeker. For a brief moment, the ocean surface becomes crowded with false returns. One of the incoming missiles reacts. Its track line bends. It commits to a target that is not real. Seconds later, it slams into empty sea far from the ship. The first threat is gone. But the second missile keeps coming. Its path wobbles slightly, like it is fighting something it does not fully understand, but it does not turn away. The distance continues to close. 15 miles, then 12. The ship's crew does not celebrate early. They know modern attacks are layered, and defense must be layered too. A vertical launch cell opens. A defensive missile blasts upward, climbing hard before turning back down toward the incoming threat. The sky flashes as the two meet high above the water. The explosion is brief and violent. Fragments scatter and fall harmlessly into the sea. For a moment, there is only the sound of the ship cutting through the water again. No alarms, no voices, just motion. That is when the situation shifts again. 2 more missiles drop away from the Venezuelan jets, using the smoke, debris, and electronic noise from the first exchange as cover. This is a calculated move, meant to overload defenses and force a mistake. The range is shorter now, the timeline tighter. There is no room to reset. Inside the combat center, tracks multiply. Systems adjust automatically. The crew does not hesitate. This is the point where training meets reality, and where decisions must be flawless. At this moment, the question becomes unavoidable. Was this escalation worth the risk, or did it cross a line that cannot be walked back? Press 1 if you think the jets pushed too far, or press 9 if you believe the ship's response forced this outcome, and make sure you are subscribed, because the most dangerous seconds are still ahead. The twist does not come from a new weapon, it comes from timing. The 2 new missiles are already closer than the first pair ever were. They slip through the clutter left behind by the earlier intercepts, using drifting debris and fading signals as cover. On paper, this is smart. Shorter distance means less warning. Less warning means more pressure. Inside the combat center of USS Thomas Hudner, the picture looks crowded. Tracks cross. Old returns fade, new ones appear. For a few seconds, it is the kind of moment attackers hope for, when defenders might miss a detail. But the crew does not chase every dot. They look for patterns. One technician notices something small but important. The incoming signals are not just strong, they are focused. That suggests the missiles are still searching hard for a ship-shaped target. They have not fully locked in yet. That detail changes everything. The ship does not simply throw out more decoys and hope. It shapes the space around itself. Electronic signals are adjusted, not to block the missiles, but to guide them. False targets are placed where the missiles expect the ship to be, just far enough away to pull their attention off the real hull. No one announces success. No one relaxes. The crew knows this kind of move takes time to work, and time is exactly what they do not have. The range drops again. 10 miles, then 8. From the outside, nothing looks different. The ship keeps moving. The sea stays calm. But inside, every person understands the truth. If this trick fails, the next defense will have to stop the missiles with force, not confusion. The crew does not know it yet, but the next few seconds will decide whether this fight ends cleanly or turns into something far worse. The final moments arrive faster than anyone wants. The 2 remaining missiles are now inside the ship's inner defense zone. They are close enough that everyone in the combat center can see the countdown without asking for it. 7 miles. 6. At this range, there is no time for long discussions or second guesses. A short command cuts through the room, clear, direct. Engage. From the deck of USS Thomas Hudner, defensive missiles launch in quick succession. They rise sharply, then bend toward the incoming threats. This is not a wide area response. This is precision, aimed at stopping what is already too close. One missile is hit cleanly. It disappears in a bright flash high above the water. The threat is gone before it can adjust. The second missile is struck as well, but not perfectly. Its guidance is damaged, not destroyed. It no longer knows where the ship is, but it still has speed. It still has mass, and it is still moving forward. Now the timeline collapses into seconds. 3 miles. 2 miles. Inside the ship, no one speaks. The system does the talking now. A close-in defense gun turns on its mount, tracking automatically. Its radar locks without hesitation. The barrel begins to spin. Then it fires. A solid stream of rounds reaches out and tears into the incoming object. Not an explosion, but a controlled destruction. Pieces break away, then smaller pieces, until what was once a missile becomes scattered debris falling harmlessly into the sea. The firing stops as suddenly as it began. For a brief moment, there is nothing but the sound of the ocean and the steady movement of the ship. Then a quiet confirmation appears on the screen. No active threats, all tracks gone. This is the point where the confrontation reaches its peak. Venezuela pushed hard. The United States held its ground without crossing into chaos. So here is the question this moment leaves behind. Press 1 if you believe the attack should never have happened, or press 9 if you think the response proves why the ship could not back down. And make sure you are subscribed, because what happens after the missiles stop flying can matter just as much. When the situation finally settles, the ocean looks the same as it did before. Calm water, clear sky, but everything else has changed. The ship continues on course, speed steady, mission intact. A quick internal check confirms the outcome. No fires, no flooding, no injuries reported. The crew of USS Thomas Hudner did exactly what they were trained to do, under real pressure, with no margin for error. Behind them, scattered debris sinks into the Caribbean. 4 missiles that were meant to send a message now leave no trace above the surface. The Venezuelan jets turn away and head back toward their coastline. There is no victory lap, no follow-up pass, just a fast exit from a fight that did not go as planned. What matters now is not just what happened, but what it proves. This encounter shows how quickly a routine patrol can become a live combat situation. It shows how silence and proximity can turn tension into action in minutes. And it shows that modern naval warfare is no longer about one weapon or one decision. It is about layers, timing, and discipline. For the sailors on board, this moment will not be remembered as a headline. It will be remembered as a test of focus. Every alert acknowledged, every system used in the right order, every step taken without panic. That level of control is not built in a crisis. It is built long before one ever happens. Beyond the ship, analysts and commanders will study this encounter closely, not because missiles were fired, but because they were stopped. Because it demonstrates how fast pressure can rise in contested waters, and how little time there is to recover from a wrong move. And this is the final point that cannot be ignored. This was not a war. It was a warning, a probe, a signal sent and answered in seconds. The next encounter may not look the same, The distance may be shorter, the timing tighter, the choices harder. The ocean is quiet again, but the lesson is loud. In today's world, it does not take a war to test the edge of one.